Let's talk about age gaps, specifically when the woman is younger and the man is much older. And moreover, let's talk about why some people, namely our starring guest Anna Akana, like it that way.
I find older men, for the most part, they're more self-aware. I don't know. There's a lot of benefits to older men. They have a skincare routine. So if I forget my shit at home, I could be like, oh, babe, give me that Pond's cream, you know? I like an early dinner. I like going to bed early.
And while Anna has always felt that silver is sexy, in her younger years, she wishes that she dated more in her age range. And she would give that advice to 20-year-olds today.
I would say if you're in your 20s, don't date anyone older than 30, honestly. In my early 20s, I dated a lot of older people, and I don't think it served me. I think there was something wrong with them to be attracted to me.
Tell me more about that.
Lovers and friends. I'ma take you on a trip, baby, I don't pretend. I said, lovers and friends. I'ma hold you down to the end. I said.
Hi there, lovers and friends. Welcome to the podcast called The Same Damn Thing I Just Said. My name is Shan. I'm a public-facing sex and relationship expert. I'm the host of this podcast, and we have been rocking for 100 or coming up on 100 episodes. And this is our first time talking about the traditional age gap. And I say traditional because when people hear that, they think younger woman, older man. And that is exactly what we are touching on today. Specifically, what our guest, Anna Akana, is talking on from her lived experience. So while you can obviously see this with your eyes, I want to just state that this conversation is sensitive and it is wide, and there are many experiences and caveats to include in here. So what we're talking about today is the lived experience of one person mixed in with the opinion of two other people, Anna and myself. But boy, what an opinion it is. I genuinely adore Anna Akana's work. I've been a fan of hers for a very long time. And when she said that she wanted to when she said she wanted to talk about this topic, I was delighted because I have attempted this conversation before with other guests. It just didn't go productively, or people backed out at the last moment because they were afraid of the steam and the blowback that they could get, because people can have very heated opinions about this. But Anna is somebody who's accustomed to the heat, and also I think has a very grounded perspective on where she is at and why she came the way that she did. So without further ado, we're going to get into that conversation. Just as a note, we have 4 ads in this episode, and in each ad, I'll be popping in with other thought starters, questions, and informations. So let's get to it. Anna Akana!
Shan!
What's up?
I'm so excited. I'm a big fan of your work.
Are you the internet's original big sister?
I know I'm the internet's poor man's Natalie Tran.
I don't know who Natalie Tran is.
Community Channel?
No.
Oh my God, she's like an OG Australian YouTuber.
I interpret your content. I mean, I'm a consumer of your content, but I'm a normal consumer. So I'm not like every Wednesday since 2001. But I always tap in with you. I am such a fan of your work. I watched your YouTube original. That to be said, though, as long as I have followed you and kept up with you, I have never seen you officially with somebody.
Really? I was officially with Ray William Johnson for a long time, and I still get comments.
I do know that.
Yeah.
I did know that.
And then I was also with a man named Brad Gage, who would often appear in my content. So those were my most public relationships, I'd say. Yeah.
And in between there?
In between there, I was also with George Watsky, although he was never in my videos. I would promote his like vinyl records and stuff within the background of a lot of shots, and we were public on Instagram. I don't know what that counts for, but yeah, I have had public relationships to the point where people have called me like the YouTube Taylor Swift.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I just have missed all of those. I did know about Ray Williams Johnson, and so we're here to talk about age gaps in relationships.
Yes.
Did that start with him when you guys gapped up, or?
Prior to him, actually, I dated a man in his mid-30s when I was 19, 20. I made a short about it called Take Your Birth Control because I'd gotten pregnant.
Yes.
And
I did watch that.
Yeah. So he was a much older man than I was. And I actually met him because I was doing background on set and he was an assistant director. But yeah, it was a wild relationship. Most of the people I've dated since then have had quite large age gaps.
Okay, let's go back to go forwards. Why?
I mean, the man I'm kind of seeing right now, I'm seeing 2 men right now. One's 51, one's 60. I think the reason is because my dad's older than my mom. So I was modeled a relationship in which the man was much older, in which he had a lot of authority, he had a lot of knowledge. I find it very attractive when someone is almost like a niche in their lane. Like George was a poetry champion when he was 15, and Brad had like all this insane knowledge of like old school stand up. And I don't know, like there's something about like a man who seems like he's in a position of authority that's very attractive to me. Also, like maybe you have this, but as someone who's an entrepreneur who has to micromanage all of your content, who has to be so driven in that space, like I find it very comforting to be in a romantic relationship where I do get to kind of like leave it up to the guy to make a lot of decisions for me, or who I can follow his lead because I'm so used to being a leader in my career.
Okay, so understood. So you still retain ownership over your career.
Yes.
But then you have a romantic relationship where you're submissive?
Yeah, I like to be a little sub.
All right, I think you guys will find this interesting. So on the day that I taped with Anna, I also taped with Damona Hoffman, who is the author of F Ya Fairy Tale. She is a dating coach, and she touched on this topic and brought a different vantage. So while this episode is not going to air until December because her book comes out in January, I did want to play this clip back to back with what Anna just said for your consideration.
I'll hear from a woman that owns her own business, that has her own house, that is very successful in her own right, that she doesn't want to do all of that in dating. And it's like, you can't turn you off. You're always going to be you. Everywhere you go, every relationship you're in, there's one common denominator, and it's you. The things that have made you successful in every other aspect of your life are the same things that are going to come into your relationship. Whether you suppress them because you don't feel like it, or you don't want to do it in the relationship, or you don't think it'll be attractive in the relationship, they will come to the surface eventually.
I love hearing both perspectives because it made me reflect. And for me, the truth is somewhere in the middle. But where is it for you? Now, speaking of you, I want to tell you about First Leaf, the wine club that sends me and possibly you, if you want to get on this offer, personalized shipments of bottles that are based on your unique palate right to our doors. And let me tell you why this is one of the Brady family's go-to services during the holidays. So I've learned this might be cultural, but I've always taught don't show up at someone else's house empty-handed, which often means for me, because I'm a late person, that I'm already late for somebody's house and I realize, oh, I gotta just pick up some wine on the way. And then I pick up a bottle that's like rushed and I'm not proud of. So I thought to myself, there's gotta be a better way. And there is. And this way gets you better wine, and you're gonna pay 30% less than what you would pay at a wine store, and it'll be delivered to your door. So no more rush trips. To get started, go to First Leaf's website, answer a few questions, and then their expert team will select a customized assortment of world-class wines based on your preferences. Then you can rate those. So if you continue on, they're gonna send you back wines based on your feedback. And you guys know, or you know if you listen to the podcast, that I'm a Moscato only kind of gal. So our first box, Jared did all the picking, but now it's Moscato, or as I've learned from the site, Muscatel or Muscat time. So what are you waiting for? Find the wine that you will love this holiday season with First Leaf. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/lovers to sign up, and you will get your first 6 hand-curated bottles for just $44.95. That is tryfirstleaf.com/lovers. Again, tryfirstleaf.com/lovers. How's your mom and dad's relationship?
So they were always very like hot and cold, deeply immersed in each other or completely fighting.
Mm-hmm. And then what about that made you feel like, I'd like this relationship?
Because that's what you think love is, right? When you see it. I've been really good about avoiding anxious avoidant dynamics. Like I've spent 10 years working on that. So I don't really find that behavior attractive anymore. But I don't know if I've just switched to being more secure, if I've switched to being more avoidant. You know, like kind of how when you're working on an issue, sometimes you go to the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had an aha actually about that I thought of myself as secure because I have an anxious parent and an avoidant parent. So I was like, oh, I netted out as secure. And then I started to assess past relationships. I was like, no. You were extremely anxious. And then when that person didn't reciprocate, you became very avoidant.
Oh, so you're disorganized attachment.
Yes.
Wow.
Because I had an ex who was like, I never knew how you felt. And I was like, what are you talking about? I made you a scrapbook. Like, I canceled like a trip to be with you. I did all these things. And then he was like, yeah, but then you go through such as a time of not speaking to me. And then you'd be so cruel sometimes. And I was like, yeah, because you didn't scrapbook me back.
Yeah.
So I had to punish you. Doesn't that make sense?
That makes sense to me.
Right.
Yeah. So do you find yourself being more secure now?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think I embrace both parts of myself. I think coming from a parental system where my parents would never even admit this, but I do acknowledge that one of my parents loved me very anxiously and the other loved me very avoidantly. So I think I have both inside of me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it maybe balances out to secure, but I can have both tendencies.
Do you feel like the relationship you're in also defines that? Like if you're with someone more anxious, do you then become more avoidant or vice versa?
And that is the thing with attachment style. It's dependent on each relationship. So I'm even curious for you who's dating two people right now, if you see different parts of yourself show up in those dynamics.
Yes. It's weird because like the guy who's in his 50s, we dated and I was way more anxious and we had like a brief breakup. Because he kept like threatening to end the relationship because his big wound is like disappointing people. If he felt like he was disappointing me or if I was seeking reassurance from him, it made him feel very triggered and he would like flip the table on the relationship. So I got very anxiously attached. Like he would just like, if I was like, hey, can I get some reassurance that, you know, your online behavior, the content you're engaging with online has nothing to do with your feelings with me. He'd be like, I'm not the man you want me to be. We shouldn't date anymore. And I'm like, what? So he did that a couple times and it got to a point where it was triggering my abandonment wound because my sister committed suicide. And so anytime someone like threatens to end a relationship or breaks a relationship, it really sends me into fight or flight. And so I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I ended it. We've recently reconnected and I've found myself being, I think, more securely attached to him. But I also wonder if that's because I'm dating two people at once. So I have less of that anxious attachment and need with him.
Because you know you have options elsewhere, which the first time you guys dated, you didn't have that.
I tend to be a person when I really like someone, I don't see anyone else. And I've been told through many dating coaches, I've done a lot of dating coaching, that like you should date multiple people so you can contrast and compare, and at least in the beginning stages, right? Like really like know that there's more options out there, especially when you're anxiously attached. Because I tend to glom on and I would be that person who's like overthinking how often they're texting, when are they texting, how often they are initiating, which then just puts you in like a really keen, desperate energy, which isn't great.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that because I think in my relationship, I get to be anxiously attached, but the fun version.
What do you mean?
Like it's kind of fun to be needy.
Yeah.
It's fun to be demanding.
Yeah.
It's fun to be like, I need love and compliments, and then to have your person meet those needs. So rather than, I think sometimes we can interpret secure as like an inherent knowing. So I have the inherent knowing, but I can allow myself to be needy sometimes, and it's great.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think the avoidant thing is something that I still struggle with when we get into arguments. Even over the past couple, I had a great conversation with Bart and Gio. Are you friends with them?
No.
Or no? That makes. I'm only saying because you guys are Asian, so there I go. And they're OG YouTubers too. But they were talking about their dynamic, their relationship, and they're like, divorce is off the table. It's not even something we think about. And I'm like, wow, my whole life I come from a similar parenting dynamic where my parents are so explosive, and divorce is always on the table in my house. My parents are constantly threatening to get divorced or acting as if they will get divorced. They've never gotten divorced in 40 years. But I think that that's also how I got married. Like, oh, I can always just get divorced. And so whenever we get into arguments, my brain would use that as like the safety blanket. Like, I don't need you. I don't have to be in this relationship. I'll be fine without you. And then only in the past few years have I been like, I actually don't need to do that. And it's not fun.
Yeah.
Being anxious and needy, fun.
Yeah.
Being avoidant, fuck you, I can burn this place down. I don't need you. Not that much fun.
I mean, especially like, do you think that having kids influenced this taking divorce off the table dynamic?
No, especially when you have one. When you have one kid, you could pack that one kid up. I'll be just fine. Now that I have two, definitely it changes the thing because I need his ass.
Yeah.
When I had one, I could do this by myself, no problem.
Oh my God.
Okay, I am so curious about not only are you dating older men, and have you always, but you're talking about it so joyfully and confidently.
Lol.
I was mentioning to you that I had a guest on who just brought this up, but it was really from the warning standpoint.
Oh, interesting. I guess I would have a warning. The thing is, like, I think my dynamic to it changed once I got financially independent. So with Ray, it was like almost textbook isolation.
What was your guys' age gap? Sorry for interrupting.
God, I think it's over 10. over 10 years. He also dated a woman right before me. We actually are friends. I went to her wedding this weekend where they also had a similar age gap. And I remember asking her years later, I was like, would you classify your relationship with him as abuse? And she was like, no, not at all. Like, I don't have a similar experience as you. And then only recently she's come to realize like, oh, I was 19 and he was in his mid 30s. And that's not okay. She was like she was really seeing herself at that age now dating a 19-year-old. And she was like, I can't even fathom that. And as like someone in there, I think it's different when you're 30. Like now that I'm a 30-year-old dating people who might be, 10, 20 years older than me, the power dynamics don't feel as off to me because I'm like, I'm financially independent. I don't rely on this person. I'm also, I've been around the world enough to where I feel like my prefrontal cortex is baked. But when you're under 27 dating older, I definitely see that as a warning sign.
Can you give a story or an example of why you feel that way?
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much I didn't know about myself or about the world. Let me think about what's a good example of dating older. I didn't know the textbook signs of abuse. I think, I was in a relationship where it seemed like a wonderful offer, and it was a wonderful offer where Ray offered to have me quit all my jobs. He's like, quit all your jobs, move in with me. I'll pay the rent. You just focus on your career. And I was like, oh my God, what a gift. And it was a really amazing gift that I have tried to give other people throughout my life because I was like, oh, the opportunity to just spend all of your time focused on your creativity is great. But then it would become, I'm paying all the bills, so I get to dictate who you see, when you see them, what friends you have. I think at one point he said, like, I don't give a fuck about your friends and family. Or like, I don't want you being friends with this girl because, she doesn't have positive things to say about our relationship. And I think if someone said that to me now, I'd be like, well, fuck you. I'll go live on my own and pay rent. But at the time, it was a very parental dynamic, and it ended up becoming this very controlling thing. Like if we had the same outfits, I had to change before we went out to dinner, or, every final decision was his. And I kind of got into this place where I didn't have any independence or autonomy or agency. And I had kind of given that up to him. And it was weird because my dad even warned me before we moved in together. He was like, don't take any money from this man. He won't respect you anymore. And in hindsight, I'm like, does that mean you don't respect mom because you were the breadwinner? And he kind of operated in a lot of the same ways as Ray did with me, with my mom, where it's like, well, because I'm making all the money, like I get to have final say over everything. Even though my mom was a mom for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, she never got a break. My dad would get to come home and he expects dinner on the table and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, she's working way harder than you, no offense. But my dad even had like female platoon members who would talk about going to Afghanistan, how that was a paid vacation compared to raising their 3 kids at home. But I think also maybe I think it's hard because I like dating older men. There's a lot of perks, but at the same time, like, do you ever question, am I just playing out what I was taught in childhood? And do I actually like this, or is this just familiar to me?
For people who are watching this, who are in their 20s, what advice would you give to them about dating older?
Ooh, I would say don't do it till your prefrontal cortex is baked. I would say if you're in your 20s, don't date anyone older than 30. Honestly. In my early 20s, I dated a lot of older people, and I don't think it served me. I think there was something wrong with them to be attracted to me.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I also looked like a baby. Like, I look quite young naturally, and I see photos of myself at 19, 20, and I was like, 35-year-olds were dating this? Like, gross. And I think, like, even sometimes I wonder, like, why aren't women their age dating them? Like, I know why with the 50 and 60-year-old, but like, there is something to be said for like women their age don't want these people, and there's a reason for that, is because they are mentally very, very immature. And so I would warn young 20s from staying away from older men, especially if they say like, oh, you're so mature for your age and you're this and you're that. I'm like, no, babe, you're immature for your age. And I think like just the older you get, the more you can kind of see someone's red flags. And then it's up to you to be like, okay, I can move forward knowing this and being self-aware of this. But at 20, I was just an idiot who was like, oh, his brother committed suicide. My sister committed suicide. We're meant to be together, versus being like, oh, this man has a sex addiction. But what about you? What advice would you give people dating in their 20s?
I've never done it before, but I think you kind of want somebody who it's on an evil playing field.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sign up to be in a basketball league with people who are like 6 feet up and male.
Yeah.
I want to play with people who are at my skill level.
Interesting.
Especially when you're younger and you're developmentally, like it doesn't really matter how good I get at basketball. I'm never going to the NBA. But there's obviously when you're young, you play against people your own age and skill level and size because they know the zone of proximal development is such that you're going to have the best shot at getting better if you stay within that zone. If you started playing with much, much older, you don't get playing time. Your confidence goes down. So it doesn't actually help you develop long term.
Interesting.
Hopping in because I'm always thrilled when I can use concepts that I paid to learn about because let's be honest, school is expensive. So if you're not familiar, zone of proximal development speaks to the range of skills and tasks that a learner is capable of accomplishing with assistance, but incapable of accomplishing on their own. So you want to be in someone's ZPD when you're learning, especially during your childhood or adolescent years. Now, it is important that educators know what your ZPD is because if the material is so easy that you can do it without any assistance or scaffolding, eventually you're going to get bored and then the learner, you, becomes disengaged and then you lose an opportunity for growth. But on the flip side, if the material is too challenging that it goes over your head and you need assistance to complete most of the project, then the opportunity for growth is also lost. So we're going to bring this back right now to the topic at hand. When a person under the age of 25 has a romantic relationship with someone who has significant more life experience, more resources, and better reasoning skills because of the development of their prefrontal cortex, naturally, the dynamic skews to teacher-student. And if the teacher isn't a skilled teacher or worse, more interested in their own gain than the growth of all involved, shit can go really, really bad for the learner, which not only means reduced learning opportunities within the relationship, but it can mean lingering negative self-perception, belief that dictatorship-style relationships are healthy, and or fear of future intimacy because the brain registers love as too hard or too dangerous because of unequal power dynamics. So yes, that is why I second Anna's advice about people under 25 dating people drastically older. I don't think it's a good idea, but you might have a different take depending on your experience. And if so, I'd love to hear about it. All right, now we're going to go to our ad break. And speaking of things that are great to hear, don't you love it when someone says to you, "Where'd you get that?" This holiday season, Uncommon Goods wants that to be the thing you hear over and over again. They are a place to make your holiday shopping stress-free by scouring the globe for the most remarkable and truly unique gifts for everybody on your list. From art and jewelry to kitchen to home to bar and to kids' toys. So I showed you guys what was in my cart last time we talked about Uncommon Goods, but sadly, the Sandcastle kit sold out before I checked out. So warning, if you like it, get it, because their items are often made in small batches. Another good reason to shop at Uncommon Goods is you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Plus, with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. And to date, they have donated over, drumroll please, $2.5 million. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/lovers. That's uncommongoods.com/lovers for 15% off. Do not miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, because we're all out of the ordinary. Right?
I mean, I'm kind of dating a 60-year-old and he was like, why? Like,
Yeah.
he was like, why? What? And I was like, I don't know. You're really hot. I don't know what to say. But he made a joke that he was like, because he also finds a lot of younger women are very attracted to him. And he's like, I don't get it, but like, okay.
Now I want to see a picture of him.
Oh, I'll show you a picture after this. I'll show you a photo. He's very hot, but it is funny because he's like, yeah, like so many women in their 30s are very attracted to him. And he like made a joke. He's like, at some point I just have to be like, you can go, like, as I get older, like, just know, like, we can be together now, but like, I understand you're going to leave. But I don't know. I'm also very comfortable in a caretaker role. Like, I feel like a lot of the men I'm attracted to just remind me of my senior cats, like the personalities. So I get very comfortable being like, oh, I know how to do this. Like, I know how to take care of this person. I know how to exist in this dynamic, and it's fun for me.
Well, that's also logical because you're dating seniors.
Yeah.
They're going to need somebody
Yeah.
to wipe that booty.
And I'll be like,
Yeah. Sponge baths all day,
yeah,
daddy.
show me it.
That's actually, I read like a memoir from the Playhouse Bunnies. And they were saying that there's this vision of what the Playboy Mansion is like, but as Hef got older, it was like a senior's home.
Oh my
God.
God.
So the majority of the sex even would be like lots of breaks, lots of massages, lots of like naps for him, bringing medications. And so it was like anything but what it would envision because he's old.
That's pretty fun. I would like a TV show about that, please.
I think there was. I feel like there some kind of TV show about it. I'm curious about the line that you said that your dad gave you that cautionary line. If you accept money from him, he won't respect you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I don't know if it did happen. So it's hard. I don't know if it's like a wide generalization, but my dad was always like, don't accept money from men until you're married, or don't give up your agency until you're married, which I always thought was quite weird. But I don't know. I think my parents, their biggest source of conflict is finances.
Because some people might look at it like the only benefit to dating older is money. Mm-hmm, so if you're not taking the money, what are you getting in return?
No, I mean, I like an early dinner. I like going to bed early, even though like with doing stand-up comedy, sometimes that's not always a reality. I find older men, for the most part, they're more self-aware. I don't know. There's a lot of benefits to older men. They have a skincare routine. So if I forget my shit at home, I could be like, oh, babe, give me that Pond's cream, you know? They've always got Pepto-Bismol in that. They have a little bit of more fine taste. I don't know. I find like dating men my age, I've done it. I've dated as young as 21 to as old as 60. So I've been around the spectrum.
How old were you when someone was 21?
I was 32. So I've been the older woman in some, like 3-month, 5-month things. But I don't know. Like, I also like maybe I like the idea of like a man who's already at the top of his mountain. So he's like, okay, I'm good. Like I've finished my career. I've settled this. And so he can support me, not financially, but just like emotionally and professionally. Because I've had some men when they're younger, they have that career drive. Like they don't feel like they've conquered it yet. So they can't give you as much time or attention or support or love or, even like maybe you've experienced. Did you get famous before meeting Jared? Did you experience success prior to him?
Kind of, sort of. It's like gray, not as much. I was making $12,000 a year when I met Jared.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I would say like most men my age are not as on my level professionally or financially. And so it tends to create a more difficult power dynamic where the man will feel very emasculated by my ability to provide. Like I've been the sugar mama for like 2 boyfriends, and eventually it created a lot of resentment on their end unintentionally because they felt like they couldn't take me out or keep up with the lifestyle that I had, even though I was like, it's fine, I'm paying for everything. I think to a certain extent, it really made them question their own masculinity.
Do you think that there's something similar too, where when you were in that position of power, did you feel yourself respecting them less?
Yeah, I think so. And it wasn't from I make more money than them way. It was, they wouldn't take me on dates because I think they felt really insecure, and I'd be like, I just want you to like romance me, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Take me to a park, take me to like, I don't know, the Swans in Echo Park Lake, or it could be cheap. It doesn't have to be this big thing. But there was almost this lack of romantic effort because they felt like nothing they did would be good enough anyway. So it was almost self-defeating. Or if I was paying all of the bills and felt like mom, then at the end of the day they wanted to have sex. There was a part of me that was like, oh, I'm not feeling as turned on because you haven't invested in me as a partner, and I've been investing in you all day as like sugar mommy.
When you see a lot of women who have valid gripes about dating today, does a part of you feel like being like, come over to the gray side?
I mean, yeah. Or am I just having my emotional unavailability manifest in a different way and evolving? I just don't know.
Well, I guess you just know in terms of if you feel more, I'm tempted to say happier, but that's not the right word. If you feel more contentment out of dating.
I will say the guy I'm dating who's 50, he's like, I am a man of no mystery. He was like, you never have to guess where we stand. Although he doesn't, like, by his own admission, the man has never had like a real long-term solid relationship because he's got his own intimacy issues. But I never have to worry about, oh, is he playing games with me via texting? Is he, not trying to see me? Is he trying to do that push-pull thing? Like, he's very straightforward, which I really appreciate. And if I state like a need that doesn't trigger like him feeling that, oh, I've let someone down, then he's really great at being like, oh, okay, you want to see me more? No problem. Let's figure that out. I'll get back to you ASAP. Like, if he doesn't answer, I know he's working or he's busy. But otherwise, there's no game there that I feel like a lot of younger men can tend to play, which makes me feel at ease and in control and have a little more power in my dating life. So yeah, I guess there is that.
Can I ask a question about kids?
Yeah.
What's your feelings on that? Before we get to that, I want to show some love to our sponsor, HelloFresh. And I also want to clear the air on a comment that I saw on the last episode where one of our friends said they don't like the fact that this show is sponsored by more than one food delivery service. And while I understand how that can appear like we're playing for multiple teams, the truth is there is a difference between meal delivery services and ready-made meal delivery services, and you can actually use both at the exact same time. So let me explain right now. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service. And what that means is they give you the farm fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients and picture step-by-step instructions on how you can turn your ingredients into a gourmet meal for 2 or 4, depending on your needs. Now, the pro of meal kits is that you have control over what you're eating since you choose from 45 weekly recipes. And you also decide how it's cooked. Now, Jared is so much more picky than me about temperature of his meat and firmness of his pastas and his rices, so he prefers meal kits. Versus me, I'm fine with ready-made meals. And while personally, I don't enjoy cooking, Ryu does. So HelloFresh gives us that bonding time, but still allows me to save the time and money that I would lose if I did straight groceries. So if this sounds good to you, try America's #1 meal kit. And there's more to the kit with HelloFresh Market. You can also add easy breakfasts, quick lunches, snacks, all delivered along with your weekly box. And if that sounds enticing, you're going to eat this up, baby. Go to HelloFresh.com/loversfree and use code loversfree for free breakfast for life. That means that one breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That is free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/loversfree. But you got to put in that code loversfree.
In my 20s, I would have said, absolutely must have kids. I want them. At 30, I started questioning if that was just something that society's told me that I've wanted. I've also, I had 6 cats at a point. I run an informal halfway house for women getting out of abusive relationships. So I'm constantly in a caretaker role. I think I'm in this position now where I'm like, I could take or leave kids depending on the person I end up with. I am bisexual, but I am... In terms of my pie chart, I'm much more attracted to men sexually. Like with women, I'm a little bit more biromantic. Like I've only ever fallen in love with women I've known for a really long time. We're really close friends. And then one day I'm like, oh shit, I love her. So I've always seen myself ending up with a man, but there's not a lot of men I meet that I think they'd be great fathers. And so I kind of don't have that instinct to like procreate with them because I'm like, oh, I don't know if this would be an equal parenting relationship.
That's what I'm curious too about when you're going for older men.
Yeah.
Maybe a part of the lure. Like if I'm thinking about the sales pitch for people, it's like a lot of women today don't want kids and they want to focus on their career. And there's just so much life to live. I mean, at the end of the day, kids are a huge inhibitor to where you can go, what you can do, what changes and choices you can make. So there's a lot of life out there to live. And if you want that type of variety for yourself, I think many women are saying, I'm going to opt out of the kids thing. So I think part of the sales pitch would be like, go older, because one, they probably already did that, or two, if they haven't done it, they probably ain't going to do it, so no one's going to bother you.
Did you always want kids?
Not until Jared.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you always against, or were you ambivalent?
Wow. Yeah, I was against it. And I think also just my sister is like the opposite story of me. She got married she got pregnant first and then got married like 25 and then had kids and got the minivan, like all that. And I always looked at my sister as somebody who couldn't make another choice. Like if she wanted to go to Venezuela, she could not. Like there were 70 different things that she had to do. And I never wanted that. I could always make a choice. Like I could just decide to go be a juggler on the beach in Ibiza, like tomorrow. And so I really revered that. And I also believe there's a lot of life to live and I wanted to live that. But it was when I met Jared and we had this life and we had built so much. And I was like, we have a lot. We should share this with somebody. Aww. And that's when I decided like I wanted to do kids with somebody.
How do you feel now that you're on the other side of it? Do you feel like it is actually inhibiting your choices, or are you like the trade-off is beyond worth it?
Well, I'm 38, so I'm so grateful for that I had kids when I did, because it would not have worked a moment sooner. I had already accomplished a lot of the big things that I had really dreamt of for myself, things that really mattered. So
when did you have kids?
35 was my first, and then 37 was the second. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. So I'm grateful for the time that I did it. And now that I'm in it, could not even imagine a different existence. And it's rad. It's rad and it's terrible. It's everything that you've heard, but mostly rad. So yeah, I'm like cool with it. But I can imagine the pressure that you might feel, especially as you get closer to that age 40, if you're dating younger or your own age and you're still undecided. So being with somebody older must give you that infinite space to be like, how do I actually feel?
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. I dated a man who was 40. He was my last major relationship, and he wanted kids like yesterday. And it was a big source of contention in our relationship because I wasn't ready for it. I was like, I won't even consider kids for 3 to 5 years. I've always kind of known I was going to get married later in life. If I wanted kids, I would have that later in life. Like, I've always been career first because, like, one time I talk about this, but my mom had like a very Britney Spears moment where she just like shaved her head. And
I gotta meet your mom.
She's a riot. You would fucking love her.
She's a gambler.
She's a gambler. She's a riot. She's eaten everything under the sun. She's so funny. She's like, honestly, like a lot of people think that my mom's the reason I got into stand-up as a teenager because she's just hilarious. But she had this moment where she was raising all 3 of us. My dad was in Afghanistan for like a 6 months tour. Understandably, she had a little mentee B. You know, she had a little mental breakdown. Shaved her head one night, was super drunk, screaming, crying. And she was like, she grabbed me by the shoulders and she was like, don't have kids. Don't make the mistake I did. Have a career. Be someone. And I kind of like laughed at her and I was like, whatever, mom, you fucking loser, and like ran away. But I do always think like, is that the reason? I saw the toll it really took on her. She was like a waitress in the Philippines, met my dad, who was 11 years older, came to America, had this big idea of what it would be like to be in America, to be a wife, to be a mother, had me at 20, my brother 2 years later, my sister 2 years after that. And I just had and my dad, to his credit, encouraged her to go to college, encouraged her to get a job. But she was like, I want to devote my youth to the kids. But there's so many times I look at that now where I'm like, I'm an ungrateful daughter. Do I call this woman? No. Like, I don't really see her that much. I gripe every time I have to go home for Christmas. Like, and I'm sure there's a part of her that's like, what the fuck? Like, I put all my effort and love into these things that like won't even call me once a week. And she said as much. Like, she said like she really wishes she had taken the opportunity to have a career and live her life. And like, I think it's so great because you can probably show up as a mom now having made that decision from a place of empowerment and having things under your belt.
Well, it's different, I guess. She was empowered as well, but maybe not informed about what the trade-off would be and then wasn't able to transition. I think that's an important part too, where I met somebody actually recently who they have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And then their 3rd kid just ended up being like 13. And then the mom was like, let's start all over again. So they have a baby right now. But I recognize that as like, oh, you don't know how to exist if you're not needed in a matronly way. So you're like, I have to stay having kids so that I can keep my sense of purpose. And I'm like, that seems tricky.
Do you find it difficult to balance self-love when you're also now like you're a wife, you're a mother, you have the quote unquote happy ending? Like, is there a part of you that finds it difficult to balance? Because we all have a finite amount of like time and energy, you know?
That's a big thing too, I think was helpful, is that not tying self-love to activities anymore. So it's not tied to like, I ran today, I did yoga, I made a cup of tea. It's literally just a thought.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like it's checking in with myself. It's one AirPod in where I can listen to something that like enriches me in a different way while I'm coloring on the ground. So I think that self-love is no longer something that like feels very separate or that I have to do, like a self-care routine. But I think that's kind of cool too. So it's just, I don't know. I think to your mom's point, it's good to listen to all stories and then be like, which one's mine? I think Elizabeth Gilbert, did she write Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes, love Gilbert.
She doesn't have kids and she talks about it so empoweringly. And when you hear what this woman does in a year and where she goes and who she talks to, you're like, I'll take that life. Like that seems rad. So I would imagine that for as long as you can have the time to think about it, I always say the second that I thought I want to have kids, there's no turning back.
Wow.
There's nothing. Like, there would never be a better version of me that wasn't a mom from that point on, because it just became a deep desire. If I didn't really have that thought, I could have definitely had a wonderful, fulfilling life without kids. But I also was dating somebody younger and I was mid-30s. So there was a part of me that had to have this like shit or get off the pot mentality with it. So that's why I think it could be kind of cool when you're dating up that you're like, it's also if it happens, right?
Yeah.
With the guy who was 40, who really wanted kids, did you see him as father material?
The thing is, I thought he would be a great father, but not a great husband.
Do you believe in a forever partner?
I think conceptually, yes. I think when I really confront it deep down, that terrifies me. Like, I think I'm in the same as you, where I find comfort in the option of divorce. The 60-year-old I'm dating has been divorced twice, never wants to get married again, which might be a problem for me. But I'm always like, I'd make a great second wife. I'd make a great third wife. Why not? You've already been wrong on paper. I love that for us. But I would like to be married. I think I would like a forever partner.
When you date, is that an intention in mind, or is that just like a loose option?
It used to be an intention. It used to be, but I felt like, I think dating women also helped me with this, where I would date women, and by date 2, I could feel the expectation of like, if you're not my forever, then fuck off. Or like, we're dating with intention, and like, are you this? And how do we fit together? And it felt like job interviews sometimes. Yes. And I was like, oh, I understand the other side of this now. Or they'd be like, do you want kids? I need to know that immediately because I'm XYZ and I'm ready to do it. And I was like, we don't even know each other yet. We don't know if we have fun. We don't know if we're playful. We don't know what side we even bring out in each other. This is like date 2 or 3. And I understand needing a certain criteria, but like it felt like an interrogation. And so it was actually like a reflection of my behavior on dates. And I was like, oh, this is how I'm coming across to some people.
I think that abundance mindset with the casualness mindset works so perfectly, because when you do know, eventually I'm going to figure this out. But in the meantime, I'm not going to be at a short of suitors or potentials. So why do I have to put pressure on anybody other than if I don't enjoy it?
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't enjoy it, why are you putting pressure on it anyways?
Absolutely.
So I think if you have that relaxed mentality and the whole goal is just, do I enjoy my time with you? Is the best version of me in this moment possible when I'm around you?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, then you get weeded out. If it's yes, but you have, you live with your mom still, or you don't want kids, whatever, like those details actually don't really matter in the exchange that we're signing up for today.
What do you feel about, I'm curious, because I really love your dating advice. It's so measured. There's nuance to it. It always takes into account the complexity of humans. But sometimes I get very like sucked into TikTok holes. Like my algorithm will start changing where it's like, you like dating content. And then there's all these creators that are like, don't have sex for like the first 3 months and like hack his vasopressin to make him fall in love. Like ask him to do stuff. Or, like all of this like kind of toxic, emotionally manipulative, like gaming someone's intermittent dopamine reinforcement system. Like what do you think of all of the shit dating advice that's out there right now?
Popping in because as the author of The Game of Desire, I felt it was important to provide my official stance on playing games in relationship. I am all for them as long as the games are designed for you to be the best, most relaxed, proudest version of yourself while you figure out what a winning outcome would look like with the other person. So unlike traditional games like Monopoly, where you enter into it knowing exactly what a winner would look like and what the objective of the game is, with dating, you can't do that because you don't know the other person. But what you do know is that if you can show up as the best version of yourself, you're more likely to get to the authentic outcome that was meant for both of you. So the games that I used to play in dating had less to do with tricking the other person or getting that person to like me under a false pretense, and more about setting myself up to enjoy who I would be in reflection of that person. And if that sounds too heady, here's a concrete example. When I was dating, I never called or texted the other person first. I always waited for them to reach out. Now, once they did, I would be very responsive and I would provide immediate positive reinforcement, or as soon as I possibly could. But I just knew myself that if I did the reach outs, I would get into that slot machine thing of if that person didn't respond, now I'd be waiting for their call and text. And I hated that feeling. And moreover, if I made the plans and I pitched it and that person showed up, I would for some reason have the insecurity that I was short for time with them or questioning if they really wanted to be there. So I just got rid of that altogether by saying a rule in a game that I am playing is that I'm just not going to reach out first. The purpose of that was not to get the other person to chase me. The purpose of that wasn't to create a withdrawal system. The purpose of that, again, was to put myself in a position where I could be chill and relaxed. And those are the kind of games that I vouch for. Now, I do think that once you identify a winning outcome together and now you're working on the same team towards the same goal, games like this no longer become necessary because you can explain to somebody your vulnerabilities, your triggers, your attachment style, and you can come up with a winning strategy together. So that is my 2 cents. And now I want to put you guys on worth $1 million of game with Zocdoc. So question, have you ever been on the hunt for a new doctor and you ask literally everybody you know for their recommendation? Now, you know you want a doctor who listens to you, who gets you and makes you feel comfortable. And then finally, after weeks of searching and asking, you find the one. And not only do they do all the things, but they're also close by. And you and the doctor are both Aries, Moon, Libra, rising, because I know to some of you that's important. So you call the office so excited and then you find out that doctor is not taking new patients or they don't take your specific insurance. Well, I want to tell you something. Wipe off your tears and head over to Zocdoc to find and book the doctor who is right for you and takes your insurance and is available. Zocdoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located close to you, and treat almost any condition you're searching for. The average wait time to see a doctor booked on Zocdoc is between 24 to 48 hours, and that's it. You can actually score same-day appointments as well. Zocdoc gets it, and get this, it's free. So I just keep it on my phone because there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to review doctors like we review everything else when we need it. So go to Zocdoc.com/lovers and download the Zocdoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. And like I said, the app is free, so technically you don't need my link, but it helps the show if you go through Zocdoc, ZOCDOC.com/lovers. When I first meet somebody, I'm very mindful of like how to woo them, how to make myself memorable to that person, how to stand out, how to ensure that they want me around in the future. But that's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And for me to be that mindful around you all the time, then also it doesn't really allow authentic space for you to get to know me.
Yeah.
Like even in this dynamic, if you ask me a question, my brain is immediately like, how do I get the question back to her? So it's not like an actual genuine conversation we're having right now. So I think if you're like in that mindset with people, they don't really get to know you. So it works, I think in the beginning, but eventually it has to peter off.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like the ritual, you know, peacocks dance, we're out here texting. Like, I agree with you in that there's a certain level of like texting etiquette or social etiquette that's very important in the beginning until you show your specific brand of like mental illness.
Cute neediness.
Like I had a guy recently question react his own messages if I didn't respond within 24 hours. And it's the biggest ick I've ever gotten.
Oh, explain that to me.
It felt like an entitlement to my time. I was like, I'll get back to you when I get back to you. Like, it was just so weird. I don't know. There was something about it of like, he had asked a scheduling question. I was waiting to hear back. And like right now, I believe texts are emails. Like we're all just trying to survive and notifications are relentless. So I'm just like, I'll get back to people in a hierarchy of needs. And someone I've never met face to face, they're not at the top of the list. And so it was less than 24 hours later, and he just like question reacted his own message. And I was like, oh, I hate this. I will never date this person.
Is it because it's kind of passive aggressive?
It is. It's passive aggressive. It's an entitlement to a response. And also it's less than 24 hours. Like, chill out.
Yeah.
I would almost have appreciated it. Hey, I get you're busy. Just wanted to bump this. Like, that would have been fine.
How old is that guy actually, may I ask?
I think he's in his 30s.
That's the problem. Not into his golden years yet.
No, I know. Yeah, that's why. If he was 50, it'd be a different story.
Can I ask about sex with older men?
Yeah.
What's it like? How is it different? Is it different?
I don't think it is. I don't think it's very different. In my experience, there has been no like, oh no, he needs Viagra or he can't get it up or anything like that. Yeah, dick's a dick.
What is your type right now? Like if you were to just create the architect in this time of freeness and relaxed nature, I know it's probably not something as rigid as it may have been 5 years ago, but what comes to mind?
I mean, it's funny because I'm sort of seeing a woman as well, and she looks exactly like the female version of the men I'm dating. So the two men I'm dating have longer silver hair. One has like a really bushy mustache. The other has like scruffiness. The girl I'm dating has long silver hair. She's not older. She's not that much older. She's like in her 40s, but she just ended up dyeing it that way. Usually like lanky, tall, kind of nerdy, a little insecure, but like in a really endearing way. Loves cats. Two of them love cats. Yeah.
A lot of women in your age group who are dating are getting that time crunch feeling. They're feeling like, I need to find my person. We need to figure out the kid situation. We need to like hunker down, make this serious because of this clock that we've been conditioned our whole life to see in the rearview mirror. How do you ignore it?
I mean, I really felt that pressure, I think, a couple years ago. I think I really made peace with the fact that if it's meant to happen, it will. I have been like, I'm not opposed to adoption. Like when I would love to have the experience of pregnancy. I think that's a beautiful, amazing potential experience that I would like to have. But I was like, isn't it more important to bring a kid into this world with someone who I know is going to be an amazing parent, who I love so much, I have to procreate with them, rather than to have this person step into a role I've determined they should have because I want to have this fantasy of what my life is.
Yes.
Like the reality of also motherhood, and I've read like a lot of books that are actually anti-motherhood. Like I read a book called Regretting Motherhood that were anonymous stories from women who would not do it again, because I was like, it's taboo to say anything bad about having a kid, about being pregnant, etc. We as a society are sort of, if you don't want that, there's something wrong with you. And if you don't further your biological legacy, like what are you good for? That is I think a message and a lesson that women have been told our whole lives. And so I was like, let me really try to understand what this is in its fullness, so that if I do choose it with someone, I know, you said it was rad and terrible, right? You said it's all the things you've heard. So I was like, let me really read about what's going to be terrible about this, so I can go into it with the realistic expectation, instead of, thinking, oh, when I'm pregnant, everyone will do whatever they want. I'll eat pickles and ice cream, versus like throwing up over the toilet, or like feeling this thing inside of me that's like fucking foreign. Or what if I don't bond with my kid right away? What if I don't like look at its face and immediately fall in love, which I've heard can happen. And so I think for me, it's been like the more real stories I can read about motherhood, about being married, I can be like, okay, who I choose is way more important than if this happens.
And when I choose to do it.
Yeah.
Ugh. We could just end on that word. I'm going to insert this question somewhere in the middle, though. I'm just curious about this. With dating older men, is there a fear that when you're no longer the young, hot thing, they'll be on to the next?
Interesting. No, because like I'm going to be that nurse. No. Where are they going to go? They can't run very far. No, I mean, with one of them, yes. He was in a relationship when we met, so there was like a little like emotional affair happening. But honestly, no. I mean, but I don't know if that's because I'm Asian, so I just have the belief like I'm gonna look like this until I'm 70, and then I'm gonna look like a mummy. But I also believe in my personalities we're sticking around for. Like I think it's hard as in this society, as a woman, it's hard not to put a lot of value into your beauty and a lot of worth into your youth, because we're told these are the best things. And also I have some friends who married young to older men, and they're now in a caretaking stage where it's really difficult, where they feel like better than ever. They want to travel, they want to do all these things, and their partner can't keep up. Like you are probably, if I married one of them, I'd probably be resigning my 50s to fully caretaking, and saying goodbye to them in that stage of life. But I don't know. That's also like 20 years ago, did I imagine I was going to be here? I don't think all of those questions or putting too much weight on them serve me in this moment, And
I think that, to your point, that if you spent 20 great years with somebody because you focused on the fact that you enjoyed yourself with them, and that you were able to bring an enjoyable side of them, and then when you got to 50 and you were doing that, yes, in that moment, it sucks, but it's not as if you would trade those 20 great years that you had to not give up those 5 to 10 years to care for that person in their final time.
Yeah, I also I grew up with a lot of death. I grew up with a lot of hospice care of relatives. So like the idea of it doesn't really scare me as much. Like it would suck if I married someone who was much older and they got dementia and like they don't recognize me, and I'm like, oh, they should be enjoying these golden years like on a rocking chair on the patio or what have you. But I don't know. Like I've always also had like an inclination that I'm probably going to marry older, and that my first husband anyway would die before me. So like the idea of that has always kind of been baked into my subconscious, and so I'm not super afraid of it.
Shout out to Anna Akana. Thank you so much for your time. Now I do want to say for my lovers and friends who've been looking for that Shits and Gigs episode that you saw me tease on my IG story a couple of weeks ago, that's going to come out next week. But I wanted to put out this episode with Anna right now for this reason.
Well, I am doing a monthly show at Dynasty Typewriter. Currently, I have November 17th as a date, and then I'll be recurring monthly there. You can find me doing a new hour of stand-up there or all around town, AnnaAkana.com.
An hour of stand-up?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't even know where to begin with that.
Oh, God.
I got to come to your show on the 17th.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll put this out before then, so then people can go to your 17th show.
Love it.
That's what we're going to do.
Yay!
So if you're in LA, that is where I am going to be next week. So if you can come, hopefully I'll run into you. But if you can't come, no stress, because we can just bump into each other here. Again, same time, same place. Bye, lovers. Bye, friends. Have a great week.
Lovers and friends. Lovers and friends. I'ma take you on a trip, baby, I don't pretend. I said, lovers and friends. I'ma hold you down to the end. I said, lovers and friends. Lovers and friends. Yeah, I said, lovers and friends. I'ma hold you down to the end. I said, I'ma wax that, I'ma tax that, bring it back so you can mac that, pack that. Where you going? Press play, podcast streaming, got you going all day, talking about that good. Girl, you know you look good, sex dreaming, sex feeling understood. Yeah, you finding out he no good, but if you listen, pay attention, you gon' find out how to make 'em miss it. Got a ticket, baby, you just lovers and friends.